Nifty down just about 45 odd points, Sensex down 160 points.
There is a dip, but it doesn't usually last. So far, it's there, right there, 18,571.
Currently, it's closing in on that 18,500 mark.
Market is seeing deep red today, 140 points lower, pretty much there, 18,394. Similar kind of picture on the Nifty Bank as well.
It was a down day of trade today. We saw a near 250-point cut on the index. The Nifty at one point even breached the 18,400 mark. We saw a decline across the board. All major sectoral indices saw a deep gash of red, and some which were doing well also saw some profit taking. This is Markets Today. You're watching us here on CNBC TV 18. This is a show where we track 6 hours of trade in 5 headlines. Let's talk about those 5 headlines then. Global markets miss a stride as the US Federal Reserve hikes rates to a 15-year high and signals more rates on the annual. Higher for longer is what Jay Powell said. Sensex loses nearly 900 points. The Nifty barely clings on to 18,400. All sectoral indices end with losses. Oil markets remain volatile as crude prices snap a 3-day gaining streak. Another federal rate hike and a rise in crude oil inventory in the US softened prices. However, China's relaxation of COVID-related restrictions and the closure of Keystone Pipeline support oil prices. Poonawalla Fincorp will sell its housing finance arm to TPG for 3,900 crore rupees. Meanwhile, JB Chemicals and Pharma says that they will buy the rights to Glenmark's cardio drug Razel in India and Nepal for 314 crore rupees. The stock gains about 2% on the news. D Street sees a slew of share sales after VRL Logistics promoters sell a slice to a clutch of foreign investors. In fact, foreign investors offload shares in Sapphire Foods as well. The government issues a notice for sale of up to 5% stake in IRCTC. A likely buyback lifts Hinduja Global Solutions, while Thermax perks up after it's allowed an appeal against a hefty tax demand. Meanwhile, SBI Life also gains in trade after bullish analyst commentary comes in, but it closes flat. Let's tell you what we have in store for you. It's Neelkant Mishra who joins in for the market opinion from Credit Suisse, a rare and an important big voice. Vineet Sambre, the head of equities at DSP Investment Managers, comes in as well, lending his views to the broader markets. In big corporate voices, we have Adar Poonawalla, who's chairman of the Poonawalla Group of Poonawalla Fincorp in particular today, joins in on the deal that took place with regards to their housing finance business. Let's talk about markets then. The rate hike and commentary from the US Fed rattled markets across the world, and India was no exception. In fact, it was a downgrade right from the word go. At any given point in time, one shorted, one would have ended in the money. The Wall Street marked its biggest single-day fall in 2 months. Sensex lost almost 900 points. The Nifty lost about 250 odd points. All sectoral indices ending in the red as well. Prashant Nair joins in with a wrap.
Pronounced selling pressure today, and the market ending at the low point on the Nifty and the Bank Nifty. Generally, the impulse for the last so many weeks has been the dip gets bought sooner rather than later in the first couple hours of trade. But today, through the course of the day, the market kept going lower. Banks saw the similar kind of structure. Banks, by the way, have been the stronger part of the market. No such luck today. PSU banks, 10 days in a row, they've gone up, but today they saw losses. Other large sectors, IT, metals and real estate were some of the others. On the large cap, you had cuts coming through in tech names like Tech Mahindra and Infosys, bank names, the HDFC twins, Titan was down, Eicher was one of the top losers as well. Broader markets, the advance decline, which was in favor of advances initially, flipped completely 2:1 in favor of declines by close. IRCTC, the PSU names were down, Bank of Baroda, Bank of India, Ambuja Cements lost quite a bit, Poonawalla Fincorp, there's a deal there, we spoke with the management, it pulled back. J&K Bank, Campus, G-Shipping. G-Shipping has been a huge outperformer and it sort of gave up some of those gains. There were gainers in the PSU bank space as well, but at the bottom rung of the PSU bank ladder, UCO Bank, Indian Overseas Bank were strongly up. Piramal Enterprises was up. That's been an underperformer. Fact, we had the management with us earlier today. GIC RE, huge underperformer since listing. That was up. GSFC and a bunch of others as well. As I said, the markets have ended at the low point of the day, both the Nifty and the Bank Nifty. And I think everyone will look to the US session because last night's session in equities and yields on the dollar did not reflect how hawkish the Fed was. Will we see a more pronounced reaction out of the US today? Or, as we have seen, these moves don't last. I think that will set the course for us near term when we return.
All right, Prashant, thanks a lot for that. Commenting on the Federal Reserve raising its benchmark interest rates by 50 basis points, the highest level that we've seen in the last 15 years. Jerome Powell said that the hike in rates are restrictive territory and that not substantially restrictive yet, and the Fed will continue raising rates until it achieves its inflation targets. Higher for longer was the word that came in.
As we've gone through the course of this year, as we lifted off and got into the course of the year and we saw how strong inflation was and how persistent, it was very important to move quickly. In fact, the speed, the pace with which we were moving was the most important thing. I think now that we're coming to the end of this year, we've raised 425 basis points this year, and we're into restrictive territory. It's now not so important how fast we go. It's far more important to think, what is the ultimate level? And then at a certain point, the question will become, how long do we remain restrictive? That will become the most important question. But I would say the most important question now is no longer the speed. So, and that applies to February as well. So I think we'll make the February decision based on the incoming data and where we see financial conditions, where we see the economy. There's an expectation really that the services inflation will not move down so quickly, so that we'll have to stay at it, so that we may have to raise rates higher to get to where we want to go. And that's really why we are writing down those high rates and why we're expecting that they'll have to remain high for a time. Our focus right now is really on moving our policy stance to one that is restrictive enough to assure a return of inflation to our 2% goal over time. It's not on rate cuts. And we think that we'll have to maintain a restrictive stance of policy for some time. Historical experience cautions strongly against prematurely loosening policy. I guess I would say it this way. I wouldn't see us considering rate cuts until the committee is confident that inflation is moving down to 2% in a sustained way.
Meanwhile, former Federal Reserve Board Governor Frederick Mishkin says that the Fed is actually ahead of the curve and has no plans to pivot. Listen in.
An issue I think that's very important is that they've slowed down the speed of raising rates. I'm not sure how critical that is in one sense, but it's important in another, in that, as Jay Powell has emphasized, the real issue is how high they have to go. I actually would have preferred to actually keep on the 75 basis point cycle for one more time, because I think that actually that they have to go to higher rates than the market's anticipating, and also that the dot plots are indicating as well. So I actually also like to be more preemptive. Again, this has to do with the fact that they dropped preemption, which is a huge mistake. So I think that they have to get back to indicate they really are going to be ahead of the curve, and they're going to be serious about not pivoting.
Let's talk about the second headline now. Oil markets remained volatile as crude prices snapped a 3-day gaining streak. However, another federal rate hike and a rise in crude oil inventory in the U.S. helped soften prices. But on the other hand, we had China's relaxation of COVID-related restrictions and the closure of Keystone. Let's talk about some other stocks in news as well. Thermax, Hinduja Global, both of them in focus. Why? Vahishta joins in to tell us more.
Well, Thermax had received demand notices from the Excise Department during the earlier years for approximately 1,380 crores, for which Thermax had filed an appeal against the same before the Customs, Excise and Service Tax Appellate Tribunal in Mumbai. And the tribunal has now allowed the appeal and passed an order in favor of Thermax on the 13th of December. So some positive news here, though there is no financial impact on the company due to the said order. And for Hinduja Global Solutions, there is going to be a board meeting on the 19th of December to consider a proposal for buyback of shares. The current cash and bank balance, including investments on the books of the company, is at 2,300 crores.
All right, and Infosys co-founders gathered to mark 40 years of the inception of the company. It's all about the milestones. Nandan Nilekani, who's currently the non-executive chairman of Infosys, says that he will pass the baton to someone who is not among the co-founders of the company. In fact, wants Infosys to be a no-drama, high-relevance company without bureaucratic cholesterol. Meanwhile, N.R. Narayan Murthy says he was completely wrong to keep the family of Infosys founders out of the company.
Handing over to a chairman at whatever point that I exit from the scene, who will be the first, not the first, but a non-founder. And now there's no plan B now. I mean, if I hand over to somebody and it doesn't work out, there's no plan B. I can't come back at some 75 or something.
I was completely wrong in that. I think I was depriving this organization of legitimate talent. So I take back that whatever I said. I think that every individual must have the same opportunity as every other individual if he or she is considered the best person for that job.
All right, then with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Markets Today. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned to CNBC TV 18. Have a good night.